first things first, let's introduce the people who are in this podcast. Myself, Alex Miller.
I'm Jason Button.
And Rory Drake.
So let's go straight into it. First topic we'll be discussing today will be the weekend's fixture against Millwall.
Now, I think we've all seen on Twitter and social media the goals that, well, all four of them weren't great goalkeeping wise. Routier, though, I genuinely haven't seen that many mistakes from a goalkeeper over the course of it was literally 5 minutes ever. Like, it's something that I've never seen.
That's the thing, it was so predictable because once the keeper's like the confidence goes, that's it. And it was literally 5 minutes afterwards, after they actually scored. So
it's the point that the free kicks was so like, I think it must have been about 5 yards difference between the two fouls. And after that first one, he's got to look at his positioning, see where the ball is, and just there's no way that you can make that mistake or make those bad mistakes twice over the course of 5 minutes.
I don't think his positioning was that bad for the first one because it went straight through. I think it was more what he did with himself rather than where he was positioned.
Okay,
on the
but
first one.
even like the second one, you need to be able to get across, and if you can't, then it just makes you a bad goalkeeper if you can't get across that quickly.
the second one he needed to save, especially after the mistake.
Exactly, yeah.
Having said that, I don't think he made the worst goalkeeping error of the game. I think Sunderland's second goal, Adam Matthews' cross, how that's ended up in the back of the net, I really do not know.
It's the fact that Matthews he's almost gone off the pitch, and all he needs to do is just clear the ball forwards, and it's not going to go in the back of the net.
Because he had got past the fullback, like he was beyond the left back. He was. I'm not sure. I must have been 10 yards off the touchline, and it was a cross. It was an absolutely awful cross, and any other goalkeeper in any other league,
apart from
Reuter, that would have stayed at 2-1.
I don't even know how he managed to do it because he's facing the complete wrong way. Like if he's got his feet on the line, it doesn't go in.
Because again, it's positioning. Because I must have seen that goal 10, 15 times over the last few days, and I still can't get over his starting position because he was inside the goal already. Like it's impossible to track, or it shouldn't be possible to track back that far, and just realise where you are and stay there as a professional goalkeeper at that level.
Yeah, I think the goalkeeping is probably a big problem at the moment, with Steele not really looking great in recent weeks either. But I think that kind of reflects why Sunderland are where they are in the table at the moment, and that probably was a must-win game for them given Millwall's position. And not only did they not win, they also lost Watmore and Johnny Williams to injury, and Wilson as well, which is not good really, because I think Williams especially in recent weeks has started, and Watmore actually, both look very promising going forward.
From what I've seen of Sunderland this season, Johnny Williams has been a standout player, because when he came on against QPR, he was one of the best players on the pitch, and he changed the game for Sunderland.
He's one of the few footballers at Sunderland in recent times where a midfielder who wants the ball, actually need a player who's going to go towards it, because the amount of static midfielders like Catamol and it's not so much in Dong, but the amount of people in midfield who just don't want the ball to pass and move.
The thing is, Catamol's that sort of midfielder who's happy to stay in front of the back line and stay there. Like he's never going to be any sort of attacking threat. He's never going to offer any sort of output to strikers. Yeah. That is his role, and he's so confined inside that role that it's tough to get anything else out of him.
I feel like Sunderland have probably got a few too many midfielders who are in a similar shape to that, and I think that's probably one of the big reasons they've been struggling this season, because in terms of centre mids going forwards, there doesn't seem to be a great deal, and so I think their link up between their attack and their defence just isn't really as good as it should be, and that's really not going to help you out.
That's why I think McNair was a big boost before he got injured, even more recently, but because he's another player who actually he wants to drive forward a bit more than what we actually used to seeing too. So, but the amount of injuries to midfielders isn't like promising.
Well, one thing I would say though about Saturday's game is that second half was very good for the level that Sunderland fans have seen this season so far. And I know Millwall aren't the best of sides, but I still think that was probably one of the best 45 minutes that you will see from Sunderland this year. If not, then before Christmas.
Yeah, it's like Graben's goal as well, which got ruled out, which was controversial to say the least as well. So it could have even been a win.
I mean, it's tough to like look at teams or look at games against sides like Millwall because they're not a side who's blessed with talent. They're not a side who's going to really like bring the game to you. You've got to just take what you can get against them, and that should, with most sides, be 3 points at home against that sort of team.
And in Jed Wallace, one of their best players, he was unavailable for the game as well.
I think, all things considered, Sunderland, like, despite their own situation, could have seen that was an opportunity to get 3 points, and a big opportunity at that.
Yeah.
And the fact they didn't shows how vital change is at the club.
Most importantly, there needs to be a change in goal. And there's
Yes.
there's actually been a lot of talk on social media because with the demise of the two goalkeepers who've actually played, whether Mika should play, like Portuguese.
Because the reason we laugh is that derby game for the under-23s last year. We were all at that, and I said I haven't seen that many mistakes from a goalkeeper in years, but I'll tell you what, Mika against Derby under-23s last year, that came close.
Yeah.
It was just funny at times.
But I'm starting to think, is that any worse now than actually what we're seeing in the first team?
You really have got to think about that, haven't you? Because I think the thing is that there's nobody really that you can go out and get at this time of the year. Going for somebody over the winter transfer window has been shown to not necessarily work. So it's all about, I think, at this point, just like righting the ship.
From what I've seen, I don't think Steele or Roy are really up to championship standard, or Mika for that matter. I'd have said if he wasn't injured and hadn't been out on loan, probably give Max Stryjak a go instead, but being injured, that's not even an option.
Yeah.
So I think just wait out to January, and there's been talk of a couple of decent players linked who have got links to the new management team, and I think if they could get Ward over the line from Liverpool, that would be a good addition, I think.
Moving on a bit more positive light, and actually who scored against Millwall, Lewis Graben now has 10 goals in the Championship and is, I think, third in the top scorers chart, and it just shows how much the defensive wars have let us down, because if you've got the third top goal scorer in the league, you think you can be at least mid-table with that amount of goals from one player.
Because, like you said, it really does show how unbalanced the team is. Because you've got there's quality in that side. There's no doubt in that. It's just trying to find the ways in which you can balance that throughout the starting 11. And Sunderland aren't, as a squad, aren't necessarily top heavy, because there's only 3 strikers in there. Because you've got Vaughan, Graben, Maha, and Osoro. 2 of which aren't exactly, well, they've not really had the opportunity to show what they can do. They're both only 18 years old. Vaughan and Graben, they've not really. I mean, there's been times when they've shown what they can do at other clubs, but there's still not that standout quality there yet.
Well, I think with the little money available, but
yeah,
if we can still manage to loan in another striker, I think it's going to have to be a top priority, because you need someone from the bench, or Graben might not be able to play. Say if he gets injured for 2 months, then you can't expect James Vaughan to lead the line for that amount of time.
I think from what I've seen, having seen them both play up front on their own and play up front together, I think the best I've seen Sunderland play is when they were playing up front together. So I think another striker is quite important, because you need someone then on the bench to be able to replace one of them from time to time. And so, yeah, I agree with that.
It really is that depth, I think, because I know there's limited resources at the club at the moment of finances, but it's tough to just have two strikers like that and have them be so similar in not necessarily quality but style of play. And if you don't have that, then you've got to bring someone up through the academy. I think Osoro could and probably should get his break at some point this year.
He seems to be more playing on the right hand side of Soro, but because Madger in pre-season, I'm sure he was a top goal scorer throughout the pre-season games, but then got injured just leading up to the season, which was like a big blow for him because you think he'd be confident going into the season, and with the limited options, he probably would have started a lot more games, or at least got involved with the squad.
It'd be nice to see if he can come back from that injury, if he is going to get a run of games now. Obviously, Simon Grayson's gone, so the manager who was giving him all those games isn't there anymore, so it might be a bit more difficult for him to force his way back into the team. But with the team struggling, he should get an opportunity, I think, and it'll be interesting to see how he does at Championship level.
But that's the thing, because it is Championship level now. It's not even as though they're gunning for promotion either. It's just stability in the Championship that you need at this rate, and there is the team there to do it. I think it has just been injuries. There's been horrible luck with injuries. Got Duncan Watmore out again now for 10 months. The same ligament that he did last season. And Dong, I still think is a very, very, very good quality player.
Yeah, as you were saying about the depth though, I still think Sunderland don't have like the spine throughout the team. Like, obviously don't have the goalkeeper there, the set goalkeeper. Centre backs, O'Shea can't be playing for another year after this one. And then Coleman and Wilson hasn't showed that much quality yet so far.
I don't think you've really got it in the centre of midfield either, to be honest. I think Gibson, I don't think really has shown much at all this season. Catamore, from what I've seen, hasn't impressed. Last season I thought Dong looked a very good player, but from what I've seen this season, he doesn't look as interested. He's been giving the ball away a lot. He wins it a lot, but he gives it away within a second most of the time. And I think it was good seeing Paddy McNair come back because he was playing quite well until getting injured again. But they need something else in the middle. Defence, midfield and in goal. They need a new spine to that team.
And a striker, to be fair as well.
Striker. Yeah, just start the season again.
Whole new squad. Just if that was possible.
And a new manager, although there is now a new manager in place.
And a new owner for asking for everything. Speaking about the new manager, it was announced on Sunday day after the Millwall game. Chris Coleman was appointed as the Sunderland manager, which was heavily talked about before the Millwall game, but was officially announced. So, what do you think of the appointment?
On paper, I think it's a good appointment. His managerial record at club level isn't fantastic, to say the least, but the job he did with that Welsh national team after the death of Gary Speed, getting them all together, getting them playing the way they did, getting the fans passionate behind that team, and making the Cardiff City Stadium a tough place for other sides to go and play. I think if he can do that at Sunderland, because I feel like at the stadium like now, it feels, I don't know what it feels like. It doesn't feel like a football stadium.
To me, it feels like you're going to someone's funeral. It's a dying club.
Yeah, and I think in that sense, it is somewhat similar to what Coleman would have experienced. Obviously, not on as bad a personal level, but I think if he can do the same with Sunderland as he did with Wales and pick them up, build that team spirit, build that team together, and get them playing the way he got his Welsh team playing, then I think Sunderland have made a fantastic appointment there.
One of the biggest positives about him is that he seems to be a motivator. I mean, the amount of Welsh players you see him like tweeting on Facebook or any social media about how good he was and how like they didn't want him to leave, like basically the players. So yeah, if you can just galvanise some, not even like amazing players, but just to try and play above their level, which they've been playing at.
I mean, like you said, Rory, there was like it was like he made Welsh home games such a tough place to play, such a tough situation for teams to go into, and Sunderland needs that again, because we all know that the Stadium of Light, when it wants to, can produce an incredible atmosphere. But it needs to be for the right reasons. It can't just be because it needs to happen. Like if the team's winning, fans are going to start coming back. I think 2 wins in the next month will send fans flocking back.
It's because it needs to get above like 30,000, because the atmosphere at the Stadium Light can be absolutely rocking. I remember the game like Chelsea a couple of years ago when literally the camera was actually shaking on when I was watching the highlights back. That's what it needs to get back to, and like Sam Allardyce.
I think it wouldn't please a lot of fans, but I think one way the atmosphere in the short term at least could improve would be shutting the upper tier and just using the lower tier, and then that would pack it out as well, so it'd actually look better. Because I think if you're a player and you're playing for Sunderland at the moment, you come out of that tunnel and you see so many red or pink in many cases seats.
White even
it's
now.
just so uninspiring, and I feel like you can't blame the fans for not turning up, but if I was a player and I walked out and I saw that, it would really demotivate me. I'd still want to go out there and give it my best, but it wouldn't put me in the best frame of mind for the game.
And again, like you said, Coleman is able to give players that belief, but he can only do so much.
Well, he did make Hal Robson-Kanu look half decent, so he must be a good manager.
Because Hal he went into had so many links, didn't he, after he scored that Cruyff
Got a
turn?
link with Atletico Madrid.
No doubt he'll link with us now. But
Hal Robson-Kanu, Champions League prospect.
Well, Coleman said he was looking to manage a Champions League club, so
There you go.
maybe Sunderland it will be.
I saw someone put on Twitter last night before the Aston Villa game, just saying, "Oh, the road to Europe starts now."
it's a bold claim.
Yeah, especially after that Aston Villa game. Not the result people would have been hoping for, but Villa Park is a tough place to go. Were you expecting anything last night?
Not particularly, but I mean, looking at the squad as well, the amount of youngsters on the bench and actually in the midfield with Gooch and Honeyman, I wasn't really expecting them to create loads of chances. But to be fair, Villa did let us play for the majority of at least the first half as well, but they seemed like content with just coming on the counter attack. But I think it was another game which was potentially there to be won. I don't think Villa are anything special. They weren't yesterday. So I think just given the few more players, I suppose, come back from injury, but I still think under Coleman it could at least get out of the relegation zone, hopefully.
Yeah, I think given what I think will happen under Coleman, I think if that game had come about a month later, I think Sunderland would have got something from that. It'd be interesting to see what he does with the squad going into the next game as well, because it was an interesting lineup that he started with. I wasn't really expecting Lyndon Gooch to start. Not really Honeyman either, to be honest. But he did start him, and he stuck with Reuter as well, which I wasn't expecting.
I think a lot of people were expecting a change in goal.
So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what he does against Burton, because for me that is a must-win game. But no, I wasn't really expecting anything last night, to be honest. I think Villa are close to the top end of the table. In Conor Hourihane, I think they've got one of the best players in the league, and around him they've spent a lot of money on getting other good players in. They've got John Terry at the back, they've got Chris Samba at the back, although I don't think he played last night.
If they had that centre back partnership, say 2009, that would
They'd be winning the
that
league.
would be special.
Yeah, I think Villa have got a good squad. I don't know if they're all that good playing together, but I think I wasn't really expecting anything last night. It's disappointing to lose. I think they could have got a point out of it, but I mean, Villa Park's a tough place to go. I think it can only get better from here.
One thing I thought I'd bring up is McGeady recently, since he was like a revelation at the start of the season, but recently he's just took a nosedive in form from being like Sunderland's most creative player. He seems to just be a lot more wasteful now.
Do you think that could come because of the situation? Because he came in as being not necessarily a star player, but someone that fans were looking forward to seeing. And do you think that's like worn off now, and it's just gone back to like mundane? I mean, he's not supposed to be a mundane player. He's supposed to have so much flair and ability with his game. But do you think that's just been lost because of the situation that he's in?
I reckon partly so, yeah, because obviously he's just became a Sunderland player, but he's already now had 2 managers, and with that comes like obviously a lot of negatives. But because he came under Simon Grayson, he was with Preston, who was like the star man again, like creative wise. I think he got the Player of the Year as well. But yeah, I reckon it's just with the negative form, it's got to affect the players mentally more than anything. So,
although I think with players like that, you do often experience they'll go through a month of really good form, and then the next month they won't be so good. But then they keep on going like that throughout the season. I think. I think that tends to be reasonably common.
Because he's got that obvious talent. I mean, he scored some absolutely ridiculous goals, such like the one against Norwich, specifically in like QPR as well. Mm-hmm. It's like he's got it in his locker, but if he was doing it consistently, I don't think he'd be at Sunderland.
Because he's had a weird career, hasn't he? He's been all over the place. He spent a few years in Russia.
Yeah, he was in Spartak Moscow for a while now. Because we were linked with him so many times when he was there. For around like it would have been near club record fee, around 10 million back then. But yeah, obviously he had his good times at Celtic as well before that.
Then went to Everton and just got put straight back down to earth.
I feel like Everton fans don't want to remember the times with McGeady.
His record at Sheffield Wednesday wasn't brilliant either, to be honest.
Because at his peak, looking at transfer market here, he was worth 9 million at one point, and it's gone down to 3 million now. And I mean, getting him for the price that you did was a fantastic deal.
I mean, it was 200,000 or 250,000 around that mark. I mean, whoever pulled that off deserves key to the city or something.
Because it really is the sort of situation where he's clearly got the ability. He clearly knows what he can do, and everyone else knows what he can do. It's just him being able to find that at a regular basis, or on a regular basis, sorry.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the one thing that has made him have this downfall from being European Champions League player every season to Everton and now here on Wearside.
I think one thing that also might not help is I think he's started every game so far, or pretty much every game. I don't think he's really had much time off, and there's been quite a lot of fixtures recently in not that much time. And I think he just needs potentially a little bit of a break. But then I guess with a player like that, when you can put them out and they can do something out of nothing, you can't really afford to give them a break at the same time, especially in the position Sunderland are in.
There's not a lot of options as well on the wings when you've got to think about Watmore's now injured. Like you've got McManaman who could play on both sides, but there's not really another Sunderland player who stands out on that left hand side who can do a good as job as McGeady can potentially do.
Well, you could do, if he wasn't injured, you could do what David Moyes tried out at one point.
Oh, don't mention that name.
On the left wing. I remember
David Moyes, tactical genius.
Crystal Palace at home last season. David Moyes at one point put Paddy McNair on at left wing, and I think the game collapsed after that point. Really, it wasn't McNair's fault, but it all just seemed to happen around that time.
Well, the amount of Sunderland managers who seem to either put like a centre midfielder on the left or a striker on the wing. I don't know where they've got this like tactical nous from. But it's not working.
It's been hypnotised by Martin Bain.
I think Martin Bain and co have made a good appointment this time.
Yeah,
I completely agree.
I think Martin Bain actually does deserve a bit of credit after all the negatives for actually managing to persuade Chris Coleman to join.
I do think it came at the right time though, with Wales not making the World Cup. I think if they had got if the Hads actually made it to Russia, then the situation could be very, very different right now. Could be getting Tony Pulis, which,
to be fair, they'd stay up. Or at least you imagine they'd stay up with Tony Pulis in charge. But West Brom fans didn't think they'd do particularly well this season.
One thing I would say about Coleman though is that I'm not sure how they've been able to afford like his wages, because I know that Bain left sides a fair bit to try and get a decent manager in, but at that level, coming off a job with the Welsh FA, you've really got to think about how much Coleman's being given, and how that's going to impact the wage budget with the first team.
I'd imagine there's quite a few bonuses in there, based on, say, might get a couple 100,000 if keep them in the league, then might even get like $500,000 if gets promoted the next year, or so on and so forth. Could be a lot based on bonuses, but yeah, I reckon I don't think they'll be on peanuts.
And I do like what he's been saying though. Like compared to what Moyes said last year, it's a lot more positive.
I'd say it's the polar opposite. Moyes pretty much after about 4 games said that they were in a relegation battle.
I only think it was 4.
Yeah, and as far as Coleman he's come out and said, look, he's not going to lie, they are bottom of the league, so he just is asking for everything from his players and demanding that they give their all, and I think that's fair enough. And you didn't really see that energy from David Moyes, and I think a club down the bottom, they need a manager to give that energy, because that energy will rub off on the players, and then that could help them with positivity. And if you're feeling more positive, you're more likely to play better.
And that's what the fans want to see. The minimum you want to see is effort.
Yeah,
that's the minimum as a footballer you should be given. And obviously, if you've got quality, that shines through. But if you can get that Sunderland players, all of them playing with 100%, which obviously I think Coleman will probably do, but
you saw it with his Welsh side, especially in his years at Euro 2016 and the build up to that. They were giving everything.
I mean, it's not a side
until the 94th minute.
That's that's very true.
If you take out Bale and say Ramsey, it's not a side with immense
less
yeah,
quality.
it's not a side blessed with talent. It's mainly probably Championship players, really.
Yeah, like Chris Gunter he's played. I'm sure he's always got 100 caps now for Wales.
There's no other country that would give that many caps to Chris Gunter, surely.
I suppose he's a fullback. There's not many of them.
He was quite good in his earlier days, but he's lost a lot of pace and stuff. Although I've heard him linked with Sunderland, which is weird considering I think there's 4 right backs at the club.
I think at this rate, half of Wales is going to be linked with Sunderland.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've been linked with he was on loan at Huddersfield, I think, last year.
Danny Ward and
yeah.
Ben Woodburn.
I mean, Ben Woodburn's that's someone I definitely want.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Ethan Ampadu join on loan from Chelsea, because Coleman's just given him his Wales debut. I think he's 16 years old. He played for Chelsea against Everton in the Cup the other week, and apparently looked like a captain when he was playing. He played with real authority and bossing about the Premier League stars of Chelsea's team.
I mean, I've not seen him play, but I would say that he was playing at Exeter last year, wasn't it?
Exeter last season.
That's a big step up from League 2 to having this, because it's not just the quality, it's the pressure that's going to be under him.
Yeah.
At 17 years old.
Yeah.
But I think if a talent is there, then I wouldn't be surprised to see him go down that route, having already seen him linked with Ben Woodburn, who's not that old himself.
I mean, there's going to be a lot of talk about Welsh players, and it's about
who's born in England, both of them.
Yeah, who's available on loan basically, and that's where we're going to have to be looking, and hopefully we can get some free transfers as well. Because I know Mark Wilson and McManaman both at clubs, but they paid no transfer fee for them both. So
talking of players in January, players who are on loan. They could all actually leave in January because...
Don't say that. That's half our squad.
Yeah, either club could terminate it if they want. Could see Galloway leave, though I don't think that'd be a massive...
That'd be a bonus.
Loss. And then...
It'd be lost to 23.
Who else is on loan?
Well, Graben. I wouldn't be surprised if someone was looking at Graben, but
Actually, yeah, Graben.
Johnny Williams is only on loan from Palace.
Yeah, Williams
That could be a big
an
loss.
interesting one because I feel like the potential's there, but he hasn't really hit the heights that we know he can.
he's
from
also made of
elsewhere,
glass.
Yeah.
That's because it was what 7 minutes over the weekend that Sunderland were ahead, and 5 of those he was down injured.
Yeah, and that was the time because I think his shoulder popped out or something.
Yeah, dislocation.
Being a Welshman though, I think he might actually want to stay at the club and stay with Coleman.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, because I've got the list of loan players here. We've got Galloway, who we've spoken about, Tyce Drowning.
I'm not sure that'd be a massive loss, really.
No. Otherwise, we've got Williams and Graben. But other than that,
Graben's going to be the main one.
Yeah, Graben's he's the main player.
I don't see Bournemouth particularly wanting him back for their squad, but if somebody,
especially now that Callum Wilson's really starting to show.
Yeah, but if somebody comes to them saying, "Look, we want to pay you, say, $1 million for Graben, and you're not going to get that from Sunderland, probably," they're probably going to say, "Look, okay, we'll recall him and send him to you."
I can't see him coming that cheap though, Graben, especially with him being in form, and he's proven in the past, I think for Bournemouth as well, that he can score in the Championship, and I think he's got 10 this year.
Yeah, I was thinking that probably might have been a bit cheap though. I was struggling to think how old he was, to be honest.
I think he's getting near 30.
He's 29.
Yeah, 29.
In that case, he might go for a bit more than that, especially given his good start to the season.
Because I mean, going back to my best mate, Transfer Market, they've got him at 3 million, which is I'd say a fair bit compared to what he's shown over the last couple of years.
I mean, a lot of his goals, I think, haven't really come from that far out, and there'll be a lot of sides in the Championship that I've seen this season myself that'll be looking for a striker like that who can be in and around the 6-yard box and just finish things off. Birmingham City, off the top of my head, they need a striker who can do that. They're not scoring goals at the moment, and having had Harry Redknapp as manager at the start of the season, they've clearly got a fair bit of money about if they want it. And I think now they've got a new manager in, I think, although I'm not sure. Steve Cottrell. He might be looking for a new striker, and he might be looking to splash a cash, and Graben might be interested in a move to Birmingham.
Well, I wish I could be saying Alice Shaw has money and he's just going to spend it on him, but if he does have anything left, I think to sign Graben...
If his recent track record has shown anything, yeah.
But even if he just wants to go into his reserves, Graben needs to, especially for next year as well, if I can keep Graben next year.
Will he want to play in League One?
No, he won't.
No, I think Coleman should keep Sunderland up, so I don't think he'd be looking at playing in League One, but I do think in January, if you were looking to get Graben permanently, he would only probably want a contract until the end of the season, because I don't think he would want to be playing in League One, and so I feel like he'd want to give himself that option to get away if it doesn't go well.
Because Roy, we've both support. I mean, you're a Plymouth fan. I support Ebbsfleet United, and I think when a club is on that downfall that Sunderland are at the moment, players or the board only offer players 1-year contracts simply because each situation comes every 6 months as to how not only are you going to pay the players, but how the club is like as a system in itself. Because it does reach a point when you really need to look at, you can't just look at long term and go, okay, we're fine for the next 2 years, what are we going to do in the third? You need to look at it from a month by month basis at times.
I think that's where Plymouth actually went wrong on their downfall, because we didn't really do that. We were offering reasonably long contracts, we couldn't pay anyone. Sunderland, I don't think they'll be going the same way, because Plymouth Argyle just didn't have any money at all.
That's the thing. There is, if there needs to be, there is financial backing behind Sunderland.
Yeah.
Whereas with both of our club situations, there was absolutely nothing in the coffers.
Yeah, I think Plymouth Argyle's players at that point, although most of them left partway through, but I think there was one player there, he'd have gone about 8 or 9 months without pay. And I don't see Sunderland getting into a situation like that, especially with still around 30,000 attending the home games. There's still money coming into the club.
A lot of the wages from the players who got relegated did get cut back as well.
Yeah, they got cut. That's a frustrating thing about that this summer is Sunderland have overpaid players in the last few years. We all know that, and that's
Jack Bodwell.
that's been shown even more this summer when other clubs have not been willing to buy Sunderland players outright, and a lot of that apparently was because of wages. And so you've got players like Lenz, Kazri, Gilabodji. They've all gone out on loan, and yet Sunderland will probably still be paying a fair amount of their wages.
Barini as well.
The other clubs didn't want to pay it. And I think that's a massive, massive... I don't know where I was going with that. Anyway, I think it's holding them back a lot this season, whereas there could have been a huge budget potentially there available for more players, and it's just not there because they've not been able to sell the players outright.
One positive for Sunderland fans, though, is that Kone won't be around much longer. I think we all know that. And it's only a matter of time before he does end up leaving.
I hope he goes to West Ham.
Well, there was a lot of talk because he's been miraculously injured till January.
Yeah.
It is now, so...
I think, to be honest with you, if he is injured till January, then fair enough, but it seems a bit convenient. I think the way he was playing, it's not a bad thing at all, and I think just get him off the wage book.
Yeah, that's...
And then
if
get someone who actually wants to play.
He must be on a lot of money, because coming from where he did, he's a... Well, if he wants to be, he can be a very good centre.
I think it was the start of last season he was offered a new contract to stop him from going to Everton or something like that. So being even more money.
So there's... Because he's not a bad centre-back, that's the thing. He's got quality there. He just doesn't really show it.
He could be a brilliant centre-back if he wanted to be. It's just he hasn't really looked interested for the last 2 years.
Well, that's the thing Coleman needs to do, get rid of the players, which he's actually said in all of his interviews, to be fair, to get rid of the players who don't want to be there. And I think, well, if anyone wants to buy Rodwell, they're perfectly welcome to. Because he was the one player whose wage didn't go down. I think it's been rumoured he's on 60,000 a week in the Championship, and when we're bottom of the league, it's just... That's a prime example of the mistakes which have happened in the club.
No, that's ridiculous for any Championship player, let alone someone of Jack Rodwell standards.
Yeah. So. Let's move on to the next game, which will be away at Burton away, which is a massive game now.
I think really it's a must-win game, even at this stage of the season. Burton are in the relegation zone themselves, and with their budget, they're probably going to be down here the majority of the season. And if Sunderland lose that game, I think it's going to be a gap that starts to open, especially given that Birmingham are playing tonight and they might pick up points as well. You don't want that gap to be opening up, and I think Burton, they've got one of the worst squads in the league, I would say. And I don't think that's harsh to say that at all. But with their budget, it's what you'd expect. And I think if you don't get a win from that game, it's probably going to be difficult to get back from it. I think losing to Burton would probably be quite bad for mentality as well. Because...
We've said that obviously Sunderland are on the downfall, but it is that mentality of how quickly can this get turned around. And I think this Saturday is going to be huge in making sure that there is that turnaround with Coleman coming in. Because when he came in for the Villa game, he wasn't really able to do much in the 2 days that he was in charge. But I think now he's got a full week. Yes, he's had the Villa game last night, which probably wasn't best timing for anyone involved. But this could potentially be the turnaround, as long as the result is there.
It needs to be like the catalyst. I was even looking at the table, like even if we beat Burton, that still doesn't get us out of the relegation zone, but sets a base for like what the season could be.
I think the fixtures in December look tough as well.
All right.
You got Burton and then Reading, and then they get tough. The next 2 games for me are very winnable, and they need to be won. Win those 2, and you can go into the harder games feeling positive that you can get something from those games. Lose against Burton and Reading, and I think it's going to be difficult going into that hard fixture, and if that hard run of fixtures, and if they can't pick themselves out of that, then I think it's going to be a real struggle for Chris Coleman to keep Sunderland in the league.
And if you do look at those set of fixtures, because obviously you've got the Reading game on the 2nd of December, and then it's the most difficult game you're going to have all season, definitely. Wolves away, one of the best championship sides we've seen in recent years, easily. The funding they've got, the players they've been able to bring in, I can't see anything except a loss from that. And then Fulham at home, we know that they, after last night, when they won 5-4,
well, they can score goals.
They can score goals, and against a defence with the likes of Sunderland's, it's going to be so tough that.
Although that would be an interesting game if Fulham turn up to the Stadium of Light and play anything like they did last night. You'd expect it to finish about 5-4 again, because Sunderland have got players who can score goals, but then so have Fulham. So could be an interesting game, that one.
That's what we need to see. Is like Sunderland fans a clean sheet. I mean, I've almost forgotten what one is. Especially going to the Stadium of Light, because it's almost like I was wondering what Simon Grayson does in training. I know there's individual errors which you can't do anything about, but I mean, there's got to be some sort of shape and like actual work, which that's why I thought we needed a defensive manager. But yeah. So what do you think about where's the clean sheets going to come from?
It's tough to know, to be honest, because if you look across that back line, last season with Gilliboji, he was always error prone. I don't think there's that much of like individual mistakes this year, but it's not even the system, it's just as a line, those back 4 aren't as good, or aren't playing as well as they should do.
It's been a lot of different personnel as well. Like there hasn't really been a settled two, like especially in centre backs.
And we said earlier on in goal as well, because if there's going to be that constant switch, and I know there was a lot of people saying that Routier probably shouldn't have started against Villa last night, but I think that if Coleman's going to do what he has to do, which is find stability, he did the right thing.
Yeah, he's got to play one of them, and
I think that's spot on, and I think you need a settled back 4, and Grayson was changing it pretty much every week. I think one player actually who I think is unlucky, having not had much game time this season, is Donald Love. I think he actually did quite well when he played last season, so it'd be interesting to see if Coleman gives him a chance. I noticed he was on the bench last night against Aston Villa, but I think Matthews has got that right back spot now, so I guess we'll probably be seeing him there.
Yeah, it seems pretty settled now with full backs with Matthews. So he's a lot more offensively minded, I'd say, than Billy Jones was, and Oviedo as well. I don't think we're going to get much better than Oviedo in the Championship, especially. So yeah, because I mean we've had Wilson, O'Shea, Browning, Kone,
Galloway.
Yeah, all centre back. So just it's about finding that partnership and finding a partnership who are fit as well. Because injuries have played a real part with that as well.
And I do think that finding a back to an extent is a lot of trial and error. But we're into the final third of November now, and there should be a clear, stable backline at this point. Maybe over the first 2, 3, 4 games maybe of the season, you can switch it about and just see what works with which players and under whatever system. But at this point, there really does need to be stability there.
I would imagine there'll be someone arriving on loan in January as well, in the defence as well. So there'll be actually more than hopefully a partnership from what Coleman wants as well.
Yeah, I think there probably are going to be a few people joining in January. So looking for a settled defence at the moment might not work that well, because in January you're going to be changing it up again presumably. But I think you can still sign free agents, to be fair. I don't really know who's available, but I think if there is a decent centre-back available at the moment, I think seeing someone come in until January would probably be needed, because I don't think the defence is particularly good, and if you could just get someone in who could improve it a little bit just to see you over the line until January, I think that would actually could actually be a really good signing to make if there's a good defender available.
Are there any though? Because the only one that springs to mind is Roger Johnson, and we all know his relegation record.
Roger Johnson's at Bromley, isn't he?
Is he?
I think so.
Okay.
I just remember seeing him at West Ham when he against Man City.
What Yo-Yo Toure?
Yeah.
He's charging at him.
Well, I can't really think of any centre-backs or defenders at all available off the top of my head, to be honest. But then you look at other clubs in the Championship, and Cardiff have just signed a striker, I think, from Venezuela. So there are some players out of the box who might well be available and might be quite good, at least for a trial.
And I mean, we've all seen through David Moyes how purely starting British players because they're British does work, and it doesn't. So I think that scouting team is in for the months of, like from now until January and beyond. It's going to be, they're going to have to work so hard to find the right players. But if they do, like you said, in Venezuela or places like that, there's the talent out there. It's just being able to find it.
I think from being an international manager, that might actually have helped Chris Coleman in that respect, because having played other countries, there might be obscure players who have impressed and aren't with a club at the moment who he might be able to bring in.
I also think that with him being an international manager, he's stuck with a certain pool of players, and he's not able to bring in the players that he wants to. And I think that could work well with Sunderland's limited budget at the moment.
Well, that brings us to a close on the first episode of Sounds as Coleman. And thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week to discuss the Burton game and look forward to the Reading game as well. The Reading game as well. The Reading game as well. The Reading game as well.